compliance with the restrictions. I would say maybe the first week we were seeing still some pretty significant high peaks. I think when the restrictions began, we were roughly around 1.2 million gallons a day with about 680,000 going to the township. We did reach a peak of over 1.3 million for a couple days with over 700,000 gallons to the township. I would say since the last 10 days roughly, we've been seeing on average between 500 to 600,000 gallons a day to the township. We've been seeing anywhere between 300,000 to 500,000 in the city. So we're getting relatively good compliance with the restrictions in place.
Are you able to talk at all about why the restriction is in the city, or?
Yes.
I can cover it during
No, I can do
council
that.
comments
Sure.
if you want me to.
So the reason the restriction is in place is because we needed to have the township place the restriction, because we were running the risk of the plant not being able to function, because when you get to certain, when the plant can only pump 1.5 million gallons a day. If we're consuming 1.3, 1.4 million gallons a day, we're running the risk, especially if we have a fire, we don't have water. And that's what we're trying to avoid. The restriction, the reason the city has to do the restriction is because of the current agreement that we have with Lowell Township that states that if the city makes the township put a restriction in place, the city has to follow it as well. So that is the reason why the city had to put the restriction in place.
So the odd even became of that, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted it said that it's an antiquated agreement that we have no way out of for 11 more years or whatever it is. And I'm sorry that we have to deal with it as city residents, but we didn't write that agreement and we can't fix that agreement.
Nope, we have to follow the agreement.
Thank you for taking the time.
But my question is, the sprinkling system here at City Hall and all of our other, did we go to odd even days
Yes.
with our timers too?
I made specifically certain that we follow the rules, and if we missed one, let us know, and we will fix it.
Okay, because it was
I have given that directive.
it was brought up, and then people were worried that with prices the way they are at the grocery store, people putting their gardens in, their garden's not going to last in this heat on every other day water. And they're concerned that this is a huge investment to get it, and they're afraid they're going to lose everything.
I understand, but we also have to have water, and that if we had no restriction, we would really be in a situation where we run the risk of not having water when we need it, and I think that would be a bigger problem.
Through no fault of our own,
Right.
through no fault of this council, through no fault of the current city staff or department.
Was not the watering ban for lawns, or is everything?
It's outdoor irrigation.
See, so
However, what we are doing with the township is, because there's been some issues with hydro seeding, we are allowing the township to grant exceptions to hydro seeding, and they have been providing those to me.
When I visited my daughter and son-in-law in the township, as I drove down the neighborhood, I could see a couple that were not in compliance because they had bright green yards.
You see some of that.
But they might have, unless you know for sure, they might have wells.
Depending where, but in the service area,
Right.
99% of people don't have wells.
Anyways, I just wanted people to know that we're sorry, and it's nothing we can do about it, and we have tried.
But this should be, in the next 30 days, this problem should start easing off, right?
The weather, I mean, if the weather is the way it is.
Well, we got an inch of rain last night.
Right.
So if that happens more, I believe you're going to see.
But the concern is then if you lift the restrictions and you're back and you have another weather pattern, you're back at them.
So how are we knowing, are we using the data then from the waste treatment plant to
No,
where the flows are coming in
no,
from?
we have data specifically from the water plant as to how much is pumped daily and how much is sent to the township.
Okay,
So that's what I'm going on. Brian gives me a read every morning. I look at, first thing I do when I get up in the morning, I look at the reads.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Nope.
steer the ship off course.
Nope, you're fine. Nope, this is
It's
fine.
very frustrating to hear that we're handcuffing people when we have no intention of handcuffing.
It's not our intent. but-
And no control over.
Right, we have to do it. Otherwise, we're not in compliance with our own agreement.
I don't think you're gonna, I mean, every other day is not, to me, is not a burden. And your grass, if you water every other day, your grass is gonna grow. It's gonna be green. It's a whole lot different than saying no water at all.
Right.
But every other day, I mean, if you look at farmers' crops, they need that sun, that heat in order for their products to grow. If it rained every day, they'd be in a whole lot of hurt.
Yeah.
So every other day is not a burden.
no,
Good point.
especially when you read Cliff's article that he wrote about the issues out there, so.
Well, it's true. I mean, I hate comparing things, saying like, oh, woe is me, and then, oh, but look at them. You have to consider other humans in different states are up against blazing fires, losing their houses, droughts that you can't control. And I think that we just have to sort of look inward and be like, we are so privileged. We have water that comes from our ground, from sprinkler systems that we've paid to put in, that we get to run every single day or every other day. And I think that we just have to check our privilege a little bit there.
But we're still, eventually we have to add wells to the property.
We are going to be
right?
forced at some point to have an expansion in the next 11 years with the agreement. It's not going to be 11 years. We were told last year that you're probably 2 to 3 years away from being forced into compliance. My guess is seeing the growth, seeing the numbers I've seen this year, that's probably going to come quicker. I've already had the conversation with the township. Matter of fact, I had it this morning. When I come back from vacation, we're going to need to sit down and start thinking about water treatment plant expansion. We have to. And we're having internal debates about that because I don't think the agreement as it's written now allows, it's going to require us to be a partner financially where it's based on flow, where we're paying, where the debt will be assigned based on flow. There's still, this year I believe there are about 42% of our flow roughly. I looked at it this morning. But the thing is any expansion that has to be done, it's not for us. We don't need, our residents don't need it.
42% of the flow being the township.
About 42% of the flow is township.
One township or two?
Both townships.
Our service area, which is the Lowell Township.
We don't do any of the gyms?
Except for the high school.
They buy wholesale from the township. So we treat it as the township.
Okay.
So the payment allocation is built into the rate formula?
Correct.
Problem is, how long could we go without expansion if we were the only one using it?
We would, if we did not have this service area, we would never have to do an expansion.
Exactly.
So I have a question about the hydro seeding, just because I've heard concerns about it, and knowing that they made exceptions, which is fine. Have we talked about the HOAs that are really, enforcing grass being grown so quickly in a time of every other day watering? Have we not
That's
just
really,
offered?
yeah, I don't really think we can do anything with that.
I mean, I know we can't enforce it, but maybe not recommending that they find their new residents, or, I don't know, I just don't.
I think there's a next level of things that have to be done that actually I have to talk to Jessica about.
Okay.
That if we get into that situation,
I mean,
I don't want to, I'm not I'm not prepared to discuss it at the moment,
Sure.
but I think there's some things that the current agreement allows us basically like for future permits and things of that nature that we might have to
Okay.
address.
I mean, I brought that up
Yeah.
because Marty had mentioned like, eventually we have to lift this, right? And then what happens? And if all of these neighborhoods are just like, wait until they lift it and then hydro seed,
Right.
we're just gonna see the same problem all over again. And then you're gonna have to give out these exceptions all over again,
Right.
so that was my only thought there.
That's fine, no, that's fine.
This just underscores the need to address this.
Yeah, it's an issue, and we need to address it, and
Yeah, because
unfortunately, I think it's gonna be a little painful.
I heard it's because we're putting the new motors and where there's a delay and we have, because we've been talking
So-
about the two wells, right?
So,
Also, you get.
that will get water to them faster if it's fixed. It still doesn't address the problem.
Right, we can
Because
only pump so.
we can only send them 500,000 gallons a day in their tank. So, it's a capacity issue at this point. It's not, the pumps are an issue, they need, it is slowing down getting water to them, but it's not, if the pumps are fixed, we still have the capacity. We're still gonna have to put the restrictions in place because it's a capacity issue. If we're sending out over 1.3 million gallons a day and we can only pump 1.5, that means there's 200,000 gallons or less that are available. That's a problem.
Shannon, how much water does it take out to put a good-sized fire?
Residential or commercial?
I'm just asking you, so I just want to make sure that 200,000 would be enough to handle.
200,000 should be adequate for a residential. You get a commercial fire, 200,000 is gonna be pushing it. So I get Michigan Wire would flow about 350 or 325.
So moving on to we received our merge actuarial. This is actually some good news. We our actuarial percent funded went up from 62% to 67%. I think it had some effect to some market gains before the end of last year. However, we've made significant payments, which also, over the last 2 years, which has also increased the percent funded. It's by far the highest increase since I've been here. Other than communities making significant investments into the issue, into their unfunded liability, is when you're seeing these massive increases, which this is a massive increase.
Can I interrupt again?
Sure.
You have done a fantastic job in taking an inherited problem with seemingly no way to solve it and getting us as far down the road as you have. So I think you deserve a ton of credit for that 67%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot more than where we
So it
started.
gets them off our back.
A lot more than where we started. So credit where credit is due.
We also received word from USDA that if we do wish to move forward with the Monroe project, that's just the first phase. The interest rate would be 40 years at 2% for the amount we requested. We have now done everything we've needed to do on our end. Now the next thing that really has to happen is we bid the project. Unless I'm missing something, Dan, but I mean, it sounds to me but one of the things that, the main driver that stopped the project was because we had to get easements for all of we had to make sure we do title searches on all the utility easements that we had. We had done that for the area that we wanted to do the construction. Earlier this year, they changed the rule that we had to have every utility easement in the city. That's the reason why we couldn't do the project, because we were only doing the area of the project. Then, we found out, about 3 weeks ago, that we never had to do the whole city, just the area of the project. They changed the rule again. So, that's the main reason as to why we couldn't do the project this year. So, we're gonna get back with Williams and Works and probably bid this out later this fall. And move forward with Monroe next year. So that's where we stand with Monroe. The road projects, as Dan said, we should be beginning end of the month for all of the projects except for G Drive. It's about ready to go out for bid with MDOT. They've given some final approvals on their end, so I hope very soon it'll be in the bid process. It'll probably be an October, November project. So that's all I have.
All right. Nothing in appointments, council comments, Leah? Marty?
River walks this weekend, I hope everybody attends. It's supposed to be in the low 80s and nice, so come out, enjoy.
With a little contest going down there.
And if
Oh,
you,
yes,
I
and
take use 3 out.
there's gonna be a little contest between Jim, Mike, and myself in the Pinewood Derby. We all got a car, we're all customizing them. And this ought to just be a riot to watch this train wreck go off.
Power.
to add, if you would like to volunteer for Riverwalk, you can email Liz at Chamber of Commerce. She would love to have volunteers.
Yep. Cliff?
Something good that came out of Saturday, we need to have whoever would do such a thing optimize our city website for use on a phone.
Yes.
I always look at mine on my computer, and someone brought up, well, it looks way different, and then called it up on their phone, and by golly, they're right. And I think it's a pretty easy fix for Betsy or
Now it's revised. The company that
whoever, because it's not a hard thing to do, it just needs to be optimized because it looks different on a phone. One other, I echo Perry's sentiments about the car. I foolishly thought it was our local dealers doing something, and then when I got the stuff in the mail, I realized maybe we can avoid that in the future.
I don't know if we can, because if they meet all the requirements to be there, I don't think you can, I mean, this is more of a legal question. I don't think you can restrict them, because they're not from here. I think you're getting yourself into some legal trouble if you do that.
You have to give them a special use, correct?
If they meet the requirements of the special use, then you can't deny them.
And I didn't review this, so I don't know anything about it, but you're right, there's a certain objective standard in planning that makes it very difficult to
Right.
say no, so.
And I don't, like I said, I don't know the specifics, but for everything that's, I mean, I did know it went to the planning commission, but if it meets the objective standards, whether you like it or not, you can't deny something because you don't like it.
Okay, I get it. And the last thing, and the mayor's gonna think I'm picking on him, but I've been all about the splash pad, but I've heard directly from someone involved in Hastings that they wish they didn't do it. And they actually have a nickname for the splash pad now, they call it the pee pad. And there's been an increase in maintenance and stuff that they weren't thinking of, and seriously, I'm not trying to give you a hard time, I'm just, because I was all about it.
If I'm not mistaken, Hastings, and I think the one in Plymouth Township that we looked at, it's a contained system.
Mm-hmm.
No, Hastings is not.
It's not, it's a continuous flow, then
Yeah,
it's not
continuous
pee,
flow.
it's fresh water.
What about Portland?
Yeah, Portland's got a little bit of an issue too. They got a really neat one right along the river.
I'm just,
But I wonder, Ionia's got theirs by the trail. I wonder if that's an issue there. I don't know. But
I
the
don't know.
township wants to build it, so it's their pad.
It's both of them, but yeah,
Well,
it doesn't matter.
maybe just to go to successful splash pads and to see how they are operating would be.
We're trying to, Hi, Jim?
I have very little on that, other than the fact that our crews were over here today. Tomorrow, we're hoping that we'll have everything programmed for the bathroom to unlock at a specific time. So if lift comes up between the hours or whatever Mike sets, that you will be able to open the door and go on and do that part of it, yeah.
Do we have signage up for that?
Yeah.
Yes, it is, looks
Little
really
sign.
nice, really nice. Yep.
I was gonna go look Saturday, but
Yep.
I didn't get out there.
Went up last week.
People are impressed with our bathrooms. At the concert and another event that I was at, people came, wow, those are really nice.
One guy did complain that he didn't think it was handicap accessible to the men's, that it wasn't quite wide enough. It didn't quite meet the requirements. It might have been 1 or 2 inches too short. Again, in the women's is not an issue, but to the men's. But I haven't heard him saying to anybody else.
Yeah,
there was one complaint.
I don't think it would've got approved if it.
Right.
if it
That's what I'm
didn't.
saying. I don't,
Yeah.
what, 36 inches, 40 inches, 36, right? And I
Are you
don't
saying
know-
getting in through the door?
Not the glass door, the little hallway that goes down there, but I didn't have a tape measure, but I believe it's, because that little bump out comes out and he said, oh, but I didn't have a tape measure, but you might want to take a, just in case somebody else comes around and says something.
Back to Jim.
Make a motion to adjourn at 8:11.
I'll support.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.